time. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Online Reviews and Google Tips webinar provided to you by the team at Raider 8. We'll be speaking about marketing and reputation management 101 for urology administrators. I'm just going to do a brief introduction of myself. My name is Ron Chorzewski. I was a orthopedic administrator. I worked with Raider 8. I was a client of Raider 8. I also have some association experience, having been a board member for the American Alliance of Orthopedic Executives for approximately 7 years, and served as their president back in 2018. Presently, I'm working as a solutions consultant with Raider 8. And joining us on the webinar today is Evan Steele. Evan Steele is the CEO and founder of Raider 8. He was also the former CEO and founder of SRS Health, and a former practice administrator himself. When I think of Evan, I think of a quote from Leonardo da Vinci, which was, "Simplicity is the ultimate form of sophistication." Evan has a really great skill of taking the very complex and making it very understandable, which I'm sure he'll do on this webinar today. But also, he does it in the platforms that he builds. So it's a pleasure to introduce Evan. I'm going to be leading off our talk today. Basically, the ultimate goal that Evan and I have for you in this webinar is to teach you different techniques that are going to help drive new patients to your practice. Ultimately, this is a very powerful tool. We're going to be speaking a lot about Google, about different online reviews that you need to build for your practice and for your providers. But this is a great way for you to attract new patients to your practice. It's also a great way for you to demonstrate your strength and effectiveness as an administrator, in coming up with a plan to attract new patients to your practice. The couple of points I want to make. One being, some folks tell us when we're talking to them, it's like, we have enough patients. We don't need any more patients. Thank you very much. But you do want to assure that your current patients have made the proper choice in coming to your practice. So it's important, even if you don't need new patients, for you to have a strong online reputation for your providers and for your different locations. Also, if you don't think that you need new patients, I would just keep in mind that your competition may look at a busy practice with low online reviews and think of it as an opportunity to move into your neighborhood. So just a couple things to think about. But ultimately, what we want to do is we want patients to find you online, and we want them to be impressed with what they see when they find you. So much so that they're inspired to come to your practice to see your particular providers. Couple of opening points for you. I think you all know online reviews are important. Statistics show that 77% of patients research physician reviews before they book an appointment with either the practice or the physician. That's really an incredible number. You can see here, so this is a listing for Raleigh Orthopedic. They have 4.8 stars, over 1,700 reviews. So this is a Google My Business listing. The online reviews are really an important component of your search engine optimization. That's going to help make it easy for patients to find your practice. So if those reviews are strong, if they're recent and they have a good number, then it's going to help with your search engine optimization. It's going to help push you up on those searches so patients can find you. A couple other things to keep in mind, other reasons to have good online reviews. We want to attract new patients, but it's also a really useful tool in physician recruitment. Many of us as administrators are in a position where we want to recruit new physicians to our practice, and I can pretty much guarantee you that any physician, before they go visit a practice, is going to research the practice, and they're going to look the physicians up online, and you want them to see strong reviews. You want them to be impressed with what they're seeing, so that they'll consider working with your organization. And In a similar fashion, when you're trying to recruit staff, your staff is going to do the same thing. The people that you're thinking about hiring, that you really want to come on board and join your team, they want to see online reviews that are strong too. And then there's a third, less considered factor, which is, and this is something that I did in my previous practice as an administrator, was that you want to demonstrate quality to negotiate with, say, an insurance company, right? So I had the experience of an insurance company saying, "Hey, Ron, your practice is already paid. We're already paying you guys too much," right? That's how any negotiation starts. We're paying you too much, so you're going to have to accept a lower rate. Well, if you can turn around and come back and say, "Well, actually, here's the quality of my practice. Here's what you're getting," and these online reviews speak to that, and it's really important. And just another point to make is that if you want to demonstrate quality in your practice through online reviews or even patient-reported outcomes, you can't wait till you need the information to start collecting it. You got to start collecting it and building it now so that you can define quality and answer that question. If you're working with a hospital system, the hospital says, "Well, we've got a quality issue with your practice." Like, well, actually, no, you don't. Because you can defend your practice with your online reputation. So I just want to go back and reiterate the point that 77% of your patients are looking at online reviews before they come into your practice. So it's a very important factor. So we have a poll for everybody to fill out, and Mark is going to throw this poll up for everybody to answer a question. I'm going to ask you this is going to be interactive today. We'll share the results with you. So is your group actively soliciting patient feedback? If you can just click on the answer.
And this is an anonymous poll too.
It's anonymous, yes, thank you. Okay. And all right, have we given enough time? Mark, did you want to share those results now, or? Okay, so is your group actively soliciting patient feedback? We're sending out patient satisfaction surveys, 29%. We're sending out outpatient satisfaction surveys and building our online reviews electronically, 42%. And no, not at this time, is 29%. So pretty good spread there. So that's great. Thank you very much to everybody who's participated with that. I think we'll have a couple more of those as we go. I want to talk quickly about your Google My Business profiles, and Evan's going to get into more detail about this information, but I think it's just really important for everybody to understand. And I have to confess that before I joined the Raider 8 team, I'm not sure I knew exactly what a Google My Business profile is. But when you search, Evan, don't smile, that's not funny. But when you search for a practice, say you search for Raleigh Orthopedic, that which comes up on the right side of the screen, that's the Google My Business profile. And it provides a lot of useful information. So that's where you get a link to the website, you get directions, right? You can call directly through there. You can see the online reviews, you can see pictures of the practice. If you're doing this search from your phone, it's going to show up right on the top of the screen. So this is incredibly important real estate for your practice. All right, we actually consider it to be the new homepage for the practice. So your practice homepage, typically it's defined as the homepage on your website. But what we're saying is that this Google My Business listing is the new homepage for your practice, right? Statistics that we've seen, it's 7.7 times more often. The Google My Business profile is viewed 7.7 times more often than your website homepage, the location page, and the provider listing pages. Okay, so this is incredibly important real estate for your practice. A lot of practices don't actually own their listings. A lot of practices don't have the right category listing here, where you can see where it says orthopedic clinic. So there's a lot of things, there's a lot of different factors, and I think most people probably are aware that it's actually not an easy thing to do to get control of this. But it is very important, because 7.7 times more views are happening at this Google My Business profile page than on your website. So very important. So just kind of shift gears a little bit. When we think about marketing our practice, there's a lot of different things that we do, right? And some of these things thrown up on the screen here, you can probably relate to. There's a difference between sales and marketing. Some of these are sales activities, some of these are marketing activities, but most of these activities are going to drive patients to your website. And I think that most of us, when we go to the website for practice, we will not, type in www and then the website. We will go to Google, we'll start typing it in, and then we'll see the link and we'll click it. So in doing that, we will have the opportunity to see the Google My Business profile, and then we will have the opportunity to get a sense of what the online reputation for that practice is. So if I were to define to you what marketing is in my book, I think marketing is about the patient experience. Marketing is essentially finding out what patients want and giving it to them, right? So the patient experience is really very important, and patients want to know what their experience is going to be like before they go and visit your practice. And what better way to do that than with online reviews? We view your online reputation, your online presence, as to be the foundation of your marketing program. It's incredibly important, right? To build preference for your providers, to build preference for your practice, you need to have a strong online reputation. Now, the easiest thing to do is nothing, right? We've done well so far. We're going to keep doing well. But inaction is the easiest thing to do, but it's the best thing that you can do for your competition. So I'm going to turn it over to Evan, who's going to continue to give you some additional information.
Okay, thank you, Ron, for the intro. So this is the part where people usually start dropping off. They hear that New York accent, and the number of attendees just starts dipping. But anyway, if you bear with my accent, I'll try to give you a good overview of Google My Business. It's almost like a class. Google My Business to me, like Google My Business 101, you could literally sign up for a class and have sessions for 2 hours, once a week for a few weeks. It's so deep, right? Google's algorithms, nobody knows exactly how they work. But there's a lot that we've figured out and that we've learned over the years, and hopefully I can impart that with you. And and just for those administrators on the phone, you might be looking at this and say, why doesn't my marketing person know this, or my director of marketing know this? It's such a deep base of knowledge, and the marketing folks are so stretched thin that oftentimes, or most often, they don't have this very specific knowledge. So I'll try to impart some of this to you today, and hopefully you could share it with your marketing team as well. Or if we're recording the webinar, we'll provide a recording. They could even watch this webinar. Okay. So the first thing, just like an overview, there's different searches that patients do. So there's a physician and a practice search. So first, I did here a practice search, Idaho Urology. I try to use our clients where possible. So this is one of our clients. And like Ron said, I don't know what the URL of Idaho Urology is. It's ID Urology right there, right? So patients just search Idaho Urology. I don't even need the institute. And if they're in this little area of Meridian or nearby, this is what will come up. And like Ron said, this is your new homepage, right? This is the homepage, right? They're not even on your real homepage on your website. They see this, and they see information about the practice, the locations here, the website, directions, all this information about your office hours, phone number. So oftentimes, or this is usually the first impression a patient's ever going to get about this practice. And you like to see 304 reviews, 4.7 stars, a nice picture. Looks solid. It looks like a nice homepage, nice Google homepage. And then as Ron mentioned, when I searched for the practice on mobile, I just took this picture recently. It takes up the whole screen, Idaho Urology, and you'll see you'll see the whole screen is the Google profile. So that's even more of a presence, and more than 50% of the world, searches on mobile. So this is what they see. So you want this very little, 4-inch by 3-inch space to look good, and clearly this does with a nice picture and nice reviews. Then there's physician searches, which I'm not going to show, but hey, I get a name of a urologist from my friend on my Facebook group. I go to the insurance directory online, the Aetna directory, and I look for, urologist in my network, and I just search for that doctor. So it's the same thing. You want to see a nice profile with a picture and a lot of reviews for that doctor, so the patient doesn't go to the next doctor on their list, who could be from another practice in the area. Then there's the all-important local search. These are becoming very popular. This says urologist near Durham, North Carolina, another one of our clients. And you'll see here, this is a new client. They just started in January, but Triangle Urology comes up. And this is Google's, we call it the 3-pack. This is their suggestions to you. And you could try this on your computer. Type in vegetarian restaurant near me, or Italian restaurant near me, or tire repair shop near me. And Google will give you the suggestions. And this is all you see. If a patient searches this is all you see in Google. It's blank, the whole screen, except for their recommendations. You don't see Yelp, you don't see Facebook, you don't see health grades. That's all below the fold. The first page is just Google's recommendations. So the nice thing about this practice here is they have the practice name. This is one of their doctors. And then you have Duke, fortunately, 3.97 stars. One of their competitors, which is Duke Medical, Duke Health System, is here. So they do a good job dominating this search. And then, of course, on mobile, if you just search for urologist near me, it zooms in and you just see really, you could scroll down, but you'll get the top listing and a map of the different practices. So that's called a local search. We also call it a category search because patients are looking for urologist near me. They might do a vasectomy doctor near me, right? Just those kind of search. Google will figure out who to search, based on their algorithms, who to show in these searches. By the way, if you own your Google listings, you could get numbers on how many of these searches are done and how often you appear in these 3-pack searches, and the numbers are a lot. So one more poll. Just curious if Mark will put up the poll, but if you just go to your browser now and just type in best urologist near me. If you're at home and you're not near your main office, you could always say best urologist near Meridian, Idaho, wherever you happen to be. And that'll give you a 3-pack. And we're just curious, when you do that search, how many of the doctors or office locations are showing, that are yours, are showing of the 3? Is it 1, 2, 3, or none? It would be interesting to see the level of domination that everybody has in these Google listings. And these are all large practices, so it's very interesting to go and say, later on you could do best urologist in, and then pick one of your satellite offices and see the results that come up for that office. Tallying them up, Mark?
Yep, people are still voting.
Okay. I'm going to come up with let me think. I would say it's going to be the average of 1, then 2, and 3. That'll be my best guess. Although you guys are large urology practices, so maybe I'll go with a 2. Will be the highest because the large practices tend to have a little bit more listings, more chance of dominating that 3-pack. Right, we need a little longer for this poll so folks could actually do that.
Evan, I'm going to predict 1.
Okay.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say 1.
I think for smaller practices would be 1, but let's see. This is the first time we've ever done that poll like this. This is exciting. We have no idea how the result will come out. I'll say 30, 50, 20, or 30, 60, 10. Okay, so 20, 30, 20, wow. So we have some domination, we have some twos, and then we have some ones, and we have a lot of nones. Okay, that's not good. You guys are large practices. We want to at least show up. So actually, what I'm about to show you in the next several slides is the discussion on what's going on in Google's algorithms in their mind, and it's really a black box. No one knows exactly, but from what we understand and what we've learned, what's going on in their algorithms that gives you preference, or your listings preference, and there's a whole bunch to discuss, and that'll just take up the rest of the webinar. Fascinating. Okay. Somebody did a little chat with me. Kathy said, we come up great, but someone comes up with an ad. Not necessarily. We could get into ads at the end. We could talk about that. So here we have a urologist near Plano, Texas. So I'm just doing some of these searches like you did. And just to kind of show you the different things that we see. So here's a urologist near Plano, Texas. So there's no local search domination, right? These are 3 doctors. I checked, hovered over the website. They're from 3 different practices. And who gets my click? Well, there's not a lot here that's exciting me. So, but at least 37, 4.2, pretty good. I mean, most urologists, you know, when they're on a system, you'll have our average score of our client base is 4.86. So you should be at a 4.86, but this 4.2 is above a 4, which is good. So I would click on this here and just check this doctor out. That would be the first thing I would do. So this is a no domination of any practice. Then I'm going to try the best urologist near Durham, North Carolina. So this is interesting. Notice that Google is highlighting this best urologist. So this is the first thing that I'm going to bring into the Google algorithms. Google's crawling through the patient comments, and this patient said they're the best. And this one here, Dr. Huang, is the best. So comments, patients typing in comments are really, really important when we're doing these best searches. And same thing like vasectomy, vasectomy doctor near me. If a patient said, I had a vasectomy, then Google is going to use that as a strong preference if the comment matches the search results. And the more reviews you have, the more comments you have, and the more chance you have that your keyword is in the comments are going to be crawled and then regurgitated here in the search results. So this is that brand new Raider 8 client, but we have this is one of their doctors, which is great, and then the competitor, Duke Health, right down here. So it's partial domination. I would say 2 out of 3 is really good, and also 2 out of 3 where there's only 4 reviews here. So I'm not likely to click on this website. I'm more likely to click on one of these 2. Okay, so Triangle Urology is the clear winner, and mostly there's other factors, but mostly because of the comments and Google's going through the comments. By the way, just a tip, if you ever do reputation management, you'll have a choice of texting or emailing patients. We like to try and if the patient has an email address, we like to email first. Why? I get a text, I'm like, I might give a star rating and then I type a short comment because the keyboard, it's not a real keyboard. But if it's an email, I said, oh, I'll do it when I get home. If the patient gets home, they go to the email, and now I have a keyboard, and I'm focused, and they put these long comments in. And we find that comments are about 60% longer character counts when you email patients versus text them, which is incredible, right? You want those long comments because they have more keywords in them. They're more descriptive. They're better to read for prospective patients, but it's also better to read by Google's algorithms, right? There's a lot more keywords in there. So we like emailing, even though people say text is cool and we got to do text, emailing, I think, gives better results with these 3-pack results here. Okay. The second thing, this is best urologist near Concord, New Hampshire. This was Ron's old backyard, and we could see there's no domination, there's no winners. This market's easy to dominate because we have barely any reviews in the urology space here, 3.6 stars. Actually, what I would do as a patient, I'd be like, ew, I don't like any of these. I'm going to click view all, and then I'm going to look for other doctors that Google may have that might have some better ratings, or maybe even no ratings, but a name I recognize or something like that. So this is not a good situation. But in orthopedics, what does a great online image look like? In orthopedics, if I say best orthopedist near Concord, New Hampshire, again, Ron's old practice, this listing and this surgery center and this doctor, these are all Concord Orthopedics. So same market as the urology search, but they dominate the listings. And you can see the best in the comments. Best, Google's smart enough to know that favorite is best, right? You know, Google does those fuzzy searches, so you can see the favorite and even a great, best, favorite, great comments showing up. So this is all three are one practice. It's domination. And this view all button, if I'm a patient, I'm not clicking on the view all button. I'm going to click probably on this website here for this listing. So just a little bit behind the psychology of the patient, what they're thinking, and also a little bit about what Google is doing to serve these up. It's funny, usually when I discuss it, I say any questions, but I realize we're not interactive now. But feel free to, along the way, type your questions in the Q&A, and we'll handle them at the end. Last poll, are you actively building Google reviews? So here we have the practice and the doctor and practice. Are you actively building Google reviews for those small, the 29 or 30% that are building reviews for your doctors, for your locations, just the listings for the locations, or are you doing both at the same time? Or I guess you could do none. It's sort of if you're not doing the reputation management. This should be a quicker poll.
What's the prediction, Evan?
Oh, okay. I would say locations is going to beat out doctors, and both are going to beat out both. So locations, doctors, both, and then whatever, the neither means not doing anything. So it's just the ones that are doing something.
Yeah, given how many showed up on the Google 3-pack, I'd have to agree.
Okay, Mark. Drumroll. I was wrong. Okay, so building both, that's good. Locations, just doctors. So 37% doctors, so we're going to talk about that. Both is good. And I'm glad to see 41%. There's a lot of reasons to do both, and you know, we'll go over them in a couple minutes here. Thanks for participating in that poll. So this is a Google My Business scorecard. So I put this up just to, again, what is Google thinking when they're serving up these local search results? So the first thing is, this is actually one of your members. There's no Urology Centers of America. We took their scorecard and we changed the names of all the doctors. So you have no idea who this is, but it is one of your members that we've been talking to over the last few weeks. So this is a scorecard. We score each listing. So here's the doctor listings, and then here is the location listings. Okay, so 5 locations, and all these are doctors. And then here you could see a score. So it's a 1 through 5 scale, and it's the quality of the rating. So you could see we have all the elements of a Google My Business listing. So the first 3 are the most important, and these are weighted most in the score. It's the quality, quantity, and recency. So quality is a star rating. So we'd like to see, you know, over 4.5, 6, 7. You know, we want a 4.8 is optimal, but anything over a 4 or higher is green. Kind of like, would you go to an Italian restaurant that has 3.7 stars if there's a 4.4 somewhere, right? So same kind of thing. That 4 threshold is important. The quantity, there's been some research, there's different studies, but a good back of the envelope is 30. So if you have 30 or more, patients start getting comfortable that it's credible and legitimate. If there's 4.6 stars and 16, good, but we'd like to see some more. And this is very key. This is a key driver here, recency. When was the last review posted? If you go to one of your listings, it's very easy for a patient to click newest. And like, so this listing here for this practice, it says 1 year ago, 365 days. This one says 11 months ago, that's 330 days. This listing says last listing for this doctor was 2 years ago, 730 days. You know, in this location, this is the main location for this practice. There was a listing review was last posted 7 days ago. So Google uses quality, quantity, and recency in deciding who which listings to put up. So and there's articles about this. I've read these articles where Google will say quality, quantity, recency, they're factors in their algorithms. So you want to try to get these to be all green. A category is key. So you see for this practice, I don't even think this doctor was a family practice physician. They were miscategorized. But this is really important because this Dr. Foreman here is a doctor. So if I search for urologist near me, Google doesn't even know that the doctor is a urologist because he's listed as a doctor. Or this doctor here was listed as a medical clinic, right? Again, patient's never going to find that doctor as a urologist, and has no chance of appearing in the 3-pack because they're not even categorized right. So we give this a strong weighting along with quality, quantity, and recency. This is no-brainer. You've got to change these. And then there's these other items. They're also important, but not as important as the first 4. You want a short bio description. You get 750 characters. You could put it on the Google listing, a website link. This is key. You want to own the listing so you could control it, so you could change, this doctor, I can't change this now because the listing's not owned. And yeah, for all those who have listings that aren't owned, it's not your marketing director's fault. Listings are very, very, it's like herding cats. Google is very hard to deal with oftentimes. So, don't be surprised if you have listings that are not owned. And the fact that we see 70% that are owned for this practice is pretty good. Then office hours and appointment links. So Google likes to see complete listings. So to the extent that you have everything green and you have better scores here, Google's going to score you, and then they're more likely to come up in their 3-packs, in their search results. Okay, so that's a scorecard. And by the way, we're happy. Oh, so one other thing I wanted to show you is just the things that stick out is the 2.0, the 2.6, these long delays here in getting reviews, and the miscategorizations. By the way, Mark, if you want to just chat everybody, we have a link, a Calendly link. If you want to schedule a 15-minute scorecard review, you'll give us the name of your practice, and we'll create one of these scorecards for all your doctors and locations, and then we'll do a screen share for 15 minutes, and we're happy to kind of give you your report card, so to speak, like how you're doing and where you could improve. So just, Mark, if you could put that in the chat so everyone see that orange blinking thing, you could get that. This is one of our clients. It's one of our early clients of pediatric ophthalmology in New York. This is what a scorecard should look like. This report is in our software. Everything's green. They have great ratings, great number of reviews. I don't have the recency column here, but everything's recent, and so Google is going to like that. They're going to give you preference. Plus, you're going to give a great. It looks great for the patients. Okay. So the other thing is, we talk about is building a balanced online image. I size these logos here by importance. So Google's definitely the most important. People think vitals and health grades, but I personally think Facebook is the second most important, because if I have 48 vitals reviews with 4.7 stars for a doctor or health grades or WebMD, what's the value of 49 or 50 or 51, right? Not much. But Facebook, when a patient posts a review and they click post, all of a sudden all their friends see it. Their whole network sees it. I went to Urology Center of Tuscaloosa, and they're great doctors. Everyone sees that. So that makes me, Facebook, more valuable than these other ones. But with Google, because of the prominence on the search, Google's the most important. So when we talk about balance, when we do a scorecard for you, if you'd like, there's another scorecard, a second scorecard we do, which is kind of like your balance report card. We look at Google Health Grades Vitals and WebMD, and we'll look again for all the doctors and all the locations. And this is, again, real data. And I point out a couple of things here. First, Denise Mahoney has 2 listings, one for the Raleigh office and one for Cary. So a lot of practices, they say it's painful to do, and I don't know if I want to spread out my reviews across many office listings. So many practices say, I don't want my doctors to have multiple listings, one for each office. We think it's better to do that, to have multiple listings. One, because especially if you have an office, let's say in a smaller locale, not a lot of competition there. It's a satellite office that's a little bit off the beaten path from the main office in the main city that you have. And a patient there says, urologist near me, you want your office listings and your doctors who practice there to show up. You want to dominate that 3-pack. Whereas if the doctor doesn't have a listing, the max is you're going to have is just one listing. So you want to have those doctor listings in those satellite offices. And the other thing is, if a patient's looking for Denise Mahoney, let's say, oh, I heard great things about Denise Mahoney. They search Denise Mahoney MD, and they're in, let's say, Garner, which is a half hour south of Raleigh. They're in Garner, and they see Denise Mahoney, and the Raleigh and Cary will show up. They'll say, that's a half hour from me. She doesn't practice near me. Whereas if she had an office listing in Garner, that listing is going to show up right away, and you'll see it in the search results for that doctor. And then the patients are much more likely to click on the website. Now they're on your website, and they'll make an appointment. So lots of good reasons to have multiple listings for the doctors. The one bad reason, or the one con, is you dilute the ratings for the doctor. You know, let's say a doctor gets 100 ratings, you're diluting them or splitting them up against multiple listings, but that's okay. I think the pros far outweigh the cons. And here we see the main location here has, solid reviews. This could be higher, but solid reviews. And then some of the outliers is we have some low rating for the Clayton office, low rating here, and a low rating here. And 3.9 is not that low, but compared to the Google, the health grades, and the WebMD, this is a little bit of an outlier. So when a patient's searching for Dr. Hauser, right, and they see, oh, this looks good, this looks good, this looks good. Let me see what's going on here. Patients look sometimes for the best and the worst information. So we want to make sure we focus on having a balanced online polished reputation. By the way, with Raider 8, we have something called pollinate. You'll see most of the time in the industry, you throw out some logos, and after the survey is done and the patient picks which review site they want to post a review, we like to provide a little more control. What the algorithm will do, for example, is say, oh, Dr. Hauser, he's good on Google Health Grades and Vitals. Yes, Google's is 16 days, so maybe we're going to send some patients. We'll look at the recency. Maybe we need a little more Google reviews, but here's Vital is under 4. We're going to send more patients to Vital than Health Grades or WebMD because of this 3.9 until this is repaired and it's over 4. For Andy Archer, needs more Google reviews. Definitely going to give him some preference here. Doesn't need WebMD. Doesn't even have a Vitals listing. So there's no way we're going to send this patient to WebMD with 29 and 4 stars. We're going to repair this. So a lot of patients some patients to Google, and definitely more patients to Health Grades until we're up over whatever your goal is. Let's say 4 stars or 3.5 or whatever your goal might be. And same thing with the Clayton office. So if Douglas Hauser here, Doogie Hauser, goes to the Clayton location, the Raleigh location, maybe we'll work on this listing here, this Vitals listing. But if he goes to the Clayton location, we have a big problem. We're going to send this patient to the location listing because it's so off and so out of goal, it's so far from our goals. We want to make sure that we get this over a 4 real quick. So, there's this, you need an algorithm to make a balanced, you need to analyze each doctor in each situation so that when you send a review invite to the patient, you send them to the right review site so as to create that balanced profile online for your practice and doctors. Okay. So this is the slide. There's that chat. If you want your own scorecard, just Mark put that link up for you, and that'll stay there for the rest of the webinar. We're getting to the end here. One other thing I wanted to talk about, not so important in urology, but it's worth mentioning. Google has categories. So this is a urologist, but there's something called GMB Spy. You could download it with an extension for Google Chrome, and in maps.google.com, you put in your practice, it'll show you your categories. So here's urologist is the main category, and then you could also put in your Google listing a sub-listing like urology clinic. Just in case the patient says urology clinic near me, you're much more likely to come up in that search if you're tagging yourself as a urology clinic. This is why, by the way, you go to you look for a vegan restaurant near me and vegetarian restaurants show up because they have subcategories that they're a vegan restaurant, right? So you want to do that. Other specialties like orthopedics, they have hand surgeons, they have spine surgeons, they have physical therapy, different categories. So it's more important. But at a minimum, I recommend everybody put urologist as the primary and urology clinic as your secondary category. And they have medical clinics, surgeon you might want to do that. But these two are the most important for urology.
Evan, not to interrupt, but can you just repeat how to get the GMB Spy? Somebody had a question.
Yes, you just Google GMB Spy Chrome extension. It's for Chrome, and it will install. It's a little finicky. It's free, but sometimes you just have to go to maps.google.com, type in this, and then hit refresh, and then do the Spy to pull it up. But it'll tell you. So you could pull up all your, as you're typing in maps.google.com, you could type in a doctor, you could type in your main office location name, and it'll pull up your listing on the left, and you click that little icon on the top right, the extensions, and it'll pop this thing up. Okay. So let's just summarize here, from our learned experience with Google, here's the 5 most common pitfalls. The first is not claiming or owning your listings. It's hard to do that. It's a lot of work. You could outsource it to like a Rater8 or another company. Your marketing folks are just so busy with so many different things. Claiming these listings are often a challenge, but if you can't claim it, you can't improve them or fix them or perfect them, and you're short. You're not doing justice. You're not maximizing your ability to come up in those searches. I didn't talk about responding to reviews, but that's another big Google algorithm criteria is, are you responding? So if you respond to reviews, Google likes businesses that are interactive or interacting with their customers, or in our case, patients. So if you respond, again, Google's going to like that. And plus, patients love to see that. If you have reviews and patients, prospective patients are looking at it and see all these responses, they're like, wow, this practice is with it. They're really focused on patients and their satisfaction. So that's a big item for us. I discussed this, not creating separate listings for each office. Not using automated testimonials on bio pages. This is an SEO thing too. You want to take the best. What we like to do at Rater8 is we take all comments from Google, Healthgrades, Vitals, WebMD, Facebook, and anything that's over 100 characters. So that means they're like juicy testimonials. They're long sentences or paragraphs. And if they have a 5-star rating, we put them on the doctor's bio page. And that list grows, right? As more and more are put on, the list grows on the bio page. And every time Google comes and scrapes that page, they see the list grew. And one of the key things about Google is they love dynamic content. They love web pages, not bio pages that just sit there forever with no changes every time they crawl. They'll detect these changes every time, and in this, this dynamic content, and they score the pages higher. So from an SEO perspective, having testimonials is a good best practice, but also from a patient's perspective, they like to read testimonials. And then the 5th one is focusing on locations or doctors rather than locations and doctors. We discussed the importance of focusing on both, so you have more chances to dominate that 3-pack. And also, lots of patients do doctor searches. I want to search the name of my doctor, or a friend of mine gave me the name of a doctor. I want to see a great profile, so I don't want to just focus on one or the other. Those are the 5 common pitfalls. How do you build reviews? You want to look for software that automates the collection of feedback in building reviews. And that automate is that what I was talking about. Don't let the patient choose which review sites. We want to make sure between Google, Healthgrades, Vitals, Facebook, WebMD, you have 25 doctors or 50 doctors, 5 listings each. You'll have like hundreds of listings. So you need something that automates and directs the patients to the right review sites. So you could build that perfect profile for the doctors in the practice. We find real time is critical. So best to You could do appointment reports that you upload once a day, but we like those real-time interfaces so that when a patient is checked out and in the parking lot, they have the invite on their phone, either a survey or a review request invite. And certainly if they're upset and they put something that they're upset about, and then we have a low rating alert goes out to the office manager or a head of marketing, and you could respond to the patient, and that becomes a service recovery opportunity, which patients love. Imagine if a patient's upset at something and 5 minutes after they leave the office, they're already getting a phone call. Sorry you had that bad experience. We talked about parallel, across all review platforms, doctors and locations, and that control, right? And the key is you want to control where they leave reviews based on where the deficiencies are, my quality, quantity, and recency. So where my low number of reviews, where my lowest stars, and where hasn't the review been left in a while. We want to keep these listings fresh. So we want to be able to control that. So that's, in our view, that's how you build online reviews. Last slide, next steps. For LUGPA members, if you'd like, we could schedule a scorecard review with you. No matter how big the practice, the larger, the more pages we'll have in that scorecard. The scorecard will help you identify areas where those listings need to improve. Those little pink areas on the report, those are like an exception report. So that's where your director of marketing could start, filling out holes and improving your listings, just making them solid, complete, and again, give preference to those listings in Google's eyes. And then, of course, the happy face, we want to build those reviews by automatically collecting patient feedback and boosting your overall online reputation. So any questions? I see there were 9 questions. Any of them, Mark, that we need to answer here?
There was one question regarding duplicate listings and the best practices to merge there. I did offer to
so you have
individually with that.
Yeah, you have a choice to merge. Hi there. Okay, but this is Q&A now, so you could either drop off or listen to the questions. If you drop off, we really appreciate your time. If you want to learn some more and hear what your colleagues are asking, we're happy to stick around. Duplicate listings happen all the time. Merging is a hassle. It's best to take the one with the least risk, the least number of ratings, just drop it, close the listing on Google. That's our recommendation. Is this chart, the scorecard, is it available through the paid service? With our relationship with LUGPA, we're happy to put together these charts, scorecards for you. It's not part of our paid service. And then if you're on Rater8, then the scorecards just appear in the software. We're happy to put that together. Okay, Google scorecard, Mark, you clarified that. Any recommendation how you claim your listing when Google won't send the postcard? Oh, I have the best tip and trick for everybody here today. Wants to use the phone number. Okay. Shar, can you send me that special Google phone number so I could send it to the group? All right. So what happens is you can do phone verification, and phone verification is the best thing. If you choose that option, they call you up, you pick up your phone, your recorded voice comes on, you click 1, and you own the listing. But what happens is you have a phone tree, and Google needs to use the number that's on the listing. So what you do is, I'm going to put in the chat, there's a number that every phone verification phone call comes from the same exact number. And you call your phone tree company and you say, I want you to make an exception. When when we get a call from this number, I want you to route it to my back line of my cell phone. And that way you don't, it's just one number in the whole world that's going to your cell phone. And then you'll get the call and you'll be able to do the validation that way. So I'll pop that into the chat. You got it to me, Sharon? Oh, it's in the chat. Great. So one of our GMB consultants just popped it into the chat. It's that 455-8888 number. So that alone will make attending the webinar worth it. That little trick. So if you own your physician and location listings done by another company that helps with this, but the ratings are not coming in, is Rater8 step 2 to assist with that. Yes. So whether you own a listing or not, you could post ratings. There's no order. You know, if a listing was completed was created by a patient 5 years ago and it's not owned, you could still send patients there to post reviews. So, you know, why not start? You know, just start building reviews. There's no reason to wait. There's no order of preference there. CMG. Okay, that's another question. Can you repeat that? GMB Spy. Okay, I think I've answered all the questions that everybody had. Let me see, is there any more? What happens if you're not the owner of a second account? Hey, Sharon, what do you think of this? So there's 2 listings, both for the same doctor. They could either merge them, which we know is a headache, so we don't recommend that, or they could drop one. But the one that, it sounds like the one that they would drop has the most listings, and it's owned, they're not owner of it. So what is it? It's just it's the claiming process. So the question is, who's the owner? If it's like a doctor, some doctors don't want to give up control. If it's a doctor, and you could kind of try to figure out who owns it by going to the listing and clicking own this business, right? So they could either when they get a request for you to own it, they could either give you ownership or they could just make you a manager. So they still own and control it, but you could manage it. The other thing is, if a lot of times some marketing person 5 years ago or 10 years ago, created the listing, and then the email addresses just doesn't go anywhere. So for that, you could wrest control over it, but that's the process. That's the thing that takes a lot of time. You get the postcards. If the postcards doesn't arrive, then you want to try to do phone verification using the trick I just gave you. If you don't have that option, then there's like video verification options where you sit there with a Google rep on the phone with your cell phone, taking a video of sharing your screen, showing your office with the doctor's name on it. So it's a bit of a hassle, but that's really the only way to do it. What's the most important GMB tip? Right. When you create, for all you CEOs out there and operations people, if your marketing folks are going to create and own Google listings, make sure they own it in the practice's name, at abcurology.com. Because if they do it with their personal email and they leave, that's when all the problems ensue. If you own that email address in your domain, then you could easily have your IT folks, reset the password, and then now you have control over it. So that's like our GMB consultant, that's like the biggest tip, because if every practice did that over the last 5 years, half the headaches of doing these things would be, of claiming these listings would go away. So if you're going to go on a whole thing where you're going to start creating lots of listings for each doctor's office, like I've recommended to you, for each office location, make sure it's in the name of your office, maybe marketing at abcurology.com. That's a good generic address.
Evan, we have one more question. This individual was curious to get your thoughts on Yelp.
So Yelp is a problem. Wayne, it's a good question. Yelp's the only review company that does not allow review solicitations. So no matter what we do, how we redirect, we've tried landing pages that say check in. They take the reviews, and if you scroll all the way to the bottom of the Yelp listing, I mean, we're talking all the way, like real estate that's 5 feet down on your scroll, it says not recommended, and you'll see all those reviews are down there. The best thing we could do is just train your checkout staff. Oh, by the way, are you a Yelp? Do you have a Yelp account? Just ask, and if they say yes, do us a favor, go in your app and check in, to do a check-in, and then Yelp will ask them to post a review. That's the best way to do it. Fortunately, when you do these Google searches for doctors, Yelp's usually lower down, and it keeps getting lower and lower. And for medical, since they do this, like you could go to your competitor and other doctors, Yelp is usually just a handful of reviews, not hundreds or thousands. So the credibility of Yelp in the medical industry, I think, is low. It's not like Vitals, Health Grades, WebMD, certainly Google or Facebook. So it's just something we all have to deal with, and there's no perfect solution. But the good news is there's so few. You might have 5, 10, 15 for your practice, that if you could get 5, 10, 15 patients to put good reviews, then you quickly double your reviews and raise your star rating. So it's easier to fix than you might think. Any other questions? I see a chat. Okay, so one more. Employee reviews. David, if you could just say, he says, what do you recommend for employee reviews? I'm not sure what you, oh, I'll just mention it, David. I don't know, you could type a follow-up, but you know, when I started Raider 8, my wife and I, we were in Prague and we checked into a brand name hotel and we had this terrible check-in experience with this guy. His name was Federico. I remember his name. There's no good way to complain about Federico. You know, bringing the manager out was kind of stressful and we didn't want to do that. I got a survey from the hotel a few days later and it had like 60 questions, no mention of Federico. So, and I remember I took the Uber from the airport and got to the hotel and the picture of the driver came up and I was able to rate that driver directly, but not the check-in person at the hotel. So that's when I decided I'm going to start Raider 8 to change that. So actually the first version of Raider 8 didn't have reputation management, didn't have surveys. It just had where you could rate people, which was the doctor. And I was more concerned about when you check in, that art of the warm welcome and like the front desk staff and the checkout people. Are you being greeted with like by Mary or Joe with a scowl on their face and they're eating a burrito and texting on their phone when you're walking in? And you guys have large practices, so who knows what's going on at that satellite office. So you know, having been in the medical field for so long, I thought, you know, it would be really helpful if people could rate people, right? So there's a component which we didn't go over today of Raider 8 where depending on the practice management systems, and most large, you know, mainstream practice management systems support us being able to rate front desk staff and checkout staff by name. Okay, so we have, okay, David's talking about employee reviews on Indeed. I don't have any ideas there. Shar, they have poor reviews from former employees on Indeed. Do you have any recommendations to rectify that? Indeed, this is more of a practice, you know, working at the practice. Wait, we have poor reviews from, do you mean Indeed or like Glassdoor? I guess do you mean Glassdoor, David? Yeah.
I had a similar problem to that. We encouraged our employees just to go on and leave reviews as well. So there, you can have your active employees be encouraged to do the same.
Yeah. Right. So it's a dilution thing. Same thing when you get a 1-star review. We actually have in Raider 8 a panic mode. So if you get a 1-star review on Facebook, we put on panic mode and it starts sending all the patients to Facebook, no other review site, because we want to bury that 1-star review down below the fold. So when a patient clicks on the practice Facebook page, they see the top 5 or 10 are just nice reviews and they won't scroll down further. So same, Ron, that's a great thing. Same thing. Just ask your employees, you know, maybe you have an employee review. At that time, they're very happy. You go, you give them a promotion and say, hey, by the way, I really appreciate it if you could put your feedback on Indeed or on Glassdoor. And that would bury or dilute those poor reviews. But I don't think there's anything you could do about those poor reviews right now. They're just on there. So dilution would be the strategy.
You could incorporate it into exit interviews as well. If somebody's leaving on good terms, just encourage them to go on and leave a review as well.
Great idea. Yeah, and then David clarified, it was Glassdoor. All right. Well, we've taken up 59 minutes of your time, almost an hour. We really appreciate it. I know, speak for Ron, we both enjoyed giving this presentation, and we hope you have a great rest of the week. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.